Okay, good morning, everybody. It's now about 6 minutes after 10. I am recording. I've got one person to admit. Okay. All right, we're right around 20 people in the room. Again, this is being recorded, so if there's people that cannot attend while it's live, you can feel free to share that with them. I will show you how to find that again. I know we've been over this a couple times now, but I think repetition definitely has some value when it comes to getting this information out there. So that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we've got, this is our homepage, obviously. Most people are familiar with this. I want to show you this right from our homepage. We have this little YouTube link, this little YouTube icon. And by the way, for everyone on the call, I believe we mentioned this last week. This is worth saying again. We are literally in the middle of revising our website and revamping, specifically the hearings page is what I'm referring to. We are going to be reformatting and relabeling and retitling a lot of information about our how-to videos, our e-filing logins, etc. The look and feel of the website from the hearings perspective is definitely going to change here sooner rather than later. So we are also going to be doing a series of very short videos that are going to just be some how-tos, some very, very simple how-tos, how to find the e-filing page, how to create an account, how to file an application, how to petition an application. These longer sessions are more geared for the people on this call who use the system every day. But if 6 months from now, a law firm hires a new legal assistant or a new attorney or whomever, and they want them to just see a quick 5-minute video on how to file an application or how to petition an application, instead of sitting through an hour-long video, that would probably be helpful for them. So that being said, we are here at our homepage. Right over here on the right-hand side, if you can see my mouse making a circle around this little tiny red icon with the play button in the middle of it, that's for YouTube. If you click on that, it takes you to the COGCC homepage, and then you'll see the different playlists are categorized here down at the bottom of the screen. We've got rulemakings, operator meetings, technical guidance. The one I'm interested in is this e-filing system playlist. If you click on view playlist, so far we have these three, this one from October of last year, and then the two we've done this month. This one recording right now is obviously titled the third e-filing, which I just realized that these are not titled first and second, so we will get those renamed. But also this one we're recording right now will be uploaded as soon as possible. And this is when we start doing those shorter 2, 3, 4, 5-minute videos, this is also where they will live. So I just wanted people to be able to see how to get to that quickly and easily. All right, that being said, I am going to move over to what we are going to address today, which is going to be, we wanted to get to this last week, we were not able to. We are going to address the petitioned docket scenario, and it's going to be sort of similar to last week, where we're going to have myself playing the applicant. We're going to have Margaret Humecki playing herself, and Elias Thomas is going to be the hearing officer. I am probably also going to be the petitioner, just for ease, and so we don't have 4 people trying to share their screens. So we're going to jump into that right now. It's going to look fairly similar to what you saw last week at the beginning. I have logged into the training version, the training environment of the EAC, which is the External Access Client. This is the system that the parties use, where you file an application, where I'm hovering right here. Also, where you go in and petition an application. So just for the sake of being clear, I want to show you where this lives on our website. And so again, unfortunately, it's odd to be giving instruction knowing that this is going to be changing very quickly. but I still, for now, we want to show people where it exists. And then when we do update the page and show where the different icons are going to exist and how the information is accessed going forward, we will have that be the subject of a very, very short, that probably is going to be a 1 or 2 minute video where we literally instruct people how to find the application and docket portal, also known as external access client. So for now, regulation, hearings, and then underneath operator tools is this hyperlink application and docket portal. Not sorry to be repetitive, but obviously this is going to be changing. The way this information is displayed is going to be changing fairly drastically. So for now, if you clicked on it here, this is how you get to it. I'm not going to log in here because that would take me to the production environment. And instead, I'd rather show you the test environment so we don't mess anything up for real. Okay, that being said, you saw this last week, so I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because we've already been through this, and what we really want to do is get to the point where the petition comes in and what that looks like from the workflow perspective and the flow chart that I shared with everybody last week. And I hope that people were able to share that with other folks in their law firms or just across our stakeholder community. Okay, so here we go. Application form has been opened. Again, that came from this page right here behind the application form. You click on hearing an application form and it opens up this window. So we're going to say that this is a spacing app, and this is in cause number 535. Oops. And it's the Niobrara, and it's ABC oil, and it's a 640. We're going to say, how about Adams County, Brighton? Go on. And again, I'm going through this very quickly. I seriously doubt any of these numbers are actually going to line up with the municipality and county I've selected. Here I am uploading the application, uploading interested parties list, and finally the testimony. Okay. Oh, so I didn't even know this existed until right now. Here we have, because we did put in a request change for this, we were trying to make testimony a required field. So this must be, it's in its testing phase. So I'm going to remove this here, and I'm going to do this here, which I've never seen before. Look at that. We're all learning together. And I am able to agree that I have permission to file these things on behalf of the entity. It's being saved. From here, I'm going to turn it over to Marg Humecki, who's going to show you how it works in the background. But I do want to, before I do turn it over to her, let me just get back to that flow chart. I'm going to open that up real quick. Okay, here's the flow chart. So remember, it's going to go into this initial docket status when Margaret has it. And that's where she's looking for the application, interested parties list, and testimony. If everything's there, that's when it gets a docket number. So I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep this pulled up while we're working through this, so we can refer back to it. And I'm going to turn it over to Margaret, who is going to show you what happens from here.
I don't even, did that document save, John?
It said it did. Let me go back and double check. It might still.
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. All right, here we go.
Okay.
So can everybody see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're working with ABC Oil. Oh, I'm Margaret Humecki, Hearings Assistant, by the way. So we're working with ABC Oil, the spacing application. So basically what I do is I'll click on that line item and it opens up the window of the form. Okay, so it looks pretty much just like the form that was used to initially fill this out. And so basically I would go in, excuse me, and do a hearing, select the hearing date, petition date. Oh, I got to change that because we need it sooner than that.
And sorry to step on your toes here, Mark, but just to point out for the audience, this is not how these things would normally function. We're manipulating these dates so we can demonstrate for the purposes of this example what it would be like to have a petition filed.
All right. Have that, and let's see. Kind of look down here. I usually click these open to make sure that they are what they say they are. Sometimes things are accidentally uploaded that are correct, and then I would catch it at this time. And I'm going to go up here. I'm going to route this to a different queue so that you can move this forward. Ignore that window that said there's a bug. Okay, it's not working. I'm not seeing that working, so that's not good.
Give me just a second, Mark. I'm going to check on it on my end. In the workflow, it says it's still creating the docket from the application, so maybe it just needs a minute.
Okay.
Just for everybody's benefit on the call, it definitely, the test environment is definitely a little wonky.
All right. So here I have. So can you all see the Unity form again, or the actual form? This window
Yes.
here. All right. So it did actually do what it was supposed to do, and so now we have initial review here, and go through and kind of look at it. We've set this up. I've gone through again and I've looked over here. Oh, that's great. This is perfect. Wow, this is a well done application form. Everything's filled out. All of these are perfect. We have people down here that are supposed to be notified through the system. And so I'm going to go back up here and I am going to approve this submission. And what that's going to do is that's going to assign this docket number right here, the next numerical docket number. And again, you just have to let it do its thing. You can't rush it. Double clicking doesn't help. It just makes it get confused. And then now we have a docket number assigned, and that basically will send out, if these were real email addresses, it would send out to these people right here that the docket number has been assigned to this matter that you just submitted. And then that moves on then to the internal group review, and that's pretty much where I end up.
Okay, great. Can we turn it over to Elias and he'll go through very quickly what he does on his end?
Go.
Good morning, everyone. And John, I don't know if you saw the chat, but Ms. Chupp is waiting to be led into the meeting. So I don't know if you saw that, but I just want to.
I'm not the host anymore, so I can't let anybody in.
Well, all right. We'll see. We will see if I can do that once.
Okay.
All right, I'm not able to share my screen yet, but we've been through this part previously, so I'll wait until I made the host or allowed to share my screen from Margaret. But we have been through this section before, hearing off. It's now an internal group review, which means technical staff is going to review all of the submitted documents. Last week we did a pooling application, and that's only to be that's only reviewed by hearings, GIS, and permitting. Since this is a spacing application, it gets reviewed by everybody. And hopefully I can pull this up soon. But Margaret, can you make me the host, please?
I stopped sharing, so I don't know how that.
If you hover over his name on the participants list, Marg, you'll see that I think if you double click on it, you can. It says allow to host.
Let's see. Oh, make host. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. And I have allow me to admit the two people in the waiting room. Okay, and I will share my screen now. Okay, so here we are, as I said, internal group review. And what we'll be doing is monitoring down here. Since this is a spacing application, it's going to be reviewed by everyone. And we will go ahead and skip over that point because we discussed last week that if there's an issue, you'll receive notification of that, and that will need to be addressed. But for purposes of here, we will move this forward because that's not really what we're discussing. And after everything is approved, I believe with spacing apps, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, the policy is once permitting has reviewed that, we're allowing it to be noticed. Once permitting and hearings and GIS have done that.
Yes.
Okay, and so we can go ahead and bypass, for the purposes of notice, the engineering and the OGLA review at this time, just to allow the notice to be sent out. So assuming that's been done on this docket, it will be moved forward to the generate notice step. And at that point, that is where the hearing officer will upload the notices of hearing. In Word and PDF formats. Okay, and once that's done, the hearing officer is going to go ahead and route this to publish notice. Applicants should be getting email notifications that these documents have been uploaded. And once it's routed to publish notice, the ball falls back into the applicant's court. The status will be published notice, like we discussed last week. And I will go ahead and stop this and let John.
Thanks, Elias. Okay, thank you very much. And again, we ran through this stuff pretty quickly because this was the subject of the video from last week. That being said, I want everybody to pay attention right now. We are in, let me get back to it. we are in this matter, and it is currently, let me refresh, because we're past internal group review. So now we're at published notice. And you'll see the vertical column over here on the right-hand side because I'm inside the external access client. And so I'm still wearing my applicant hat. I've got to go here to upload supporting document. And now that the notice has been provided and by the hearing officer, I've now mailed it out to the interested parties along with the application. I've got to come in here as the applicant, and I've got to upload the certificate of mailing of service, just a test document. I also have to tell the system over here who I am. Then I hit import, and it gives me this fake error message because we're in the test environment. The screen's going to refresh. I want to scroll down here as the applicant and make sure, yep, there it is, certificate of mailing of service. I'm not done. I've got to come back, and as the applicant again, I've got to also upload the proof of publication affidavit. Now, this is, again, still the applicant. Import. Oh, that actually was a legitimate error message. Here we go. Import. Okay. So this is where this is where we're seeing some bottleneck on our side. We are having statuses exist and get stuck in this published notice docket status. So look at what published notice says. If you refer back to the flow chart we provided last week, applicant serves the notice and application. Once complete, applicant, we just did this part right here. The applicant has uploaded a certificate of mailing of service as well as a proof of publication affidavit. Here's a very important note. Once uploaded, the applicant must click route to petition period. Failure to do so will result in unanticipated delays. So that's one of those things where we've got this sort of bottleneck existing, and I'm done. So as the applicant, I have to come over here and click on this route to petition period button. I'm going to do that now. This is important because this lets interested parties know that it's in the petition period. If they've logged into the system and they see that it's in the petition period, that's a cue to them that this is their opportunity to log in and file a petition. If they don't, there's a potential prejudice there. So now we're in the petition period. The petition deadline is May 26th. So now let's just say that I've logged it. Now we're going back to this guy. Petition period. Here's our flow chart. The 30-day petition period has begun. Affected persons. Remember, the underlined parties within these boxes are the parties whose responsibility it is to take action during any particular docket status. So in this instance, it's the affected persons who, if they wish to do something, it's their responsibility to act during this docket status. So affected persons may register. And when we say register, that's with the external access client, because they can't file a petition through the public access viewer, the PAV. Remember, that's just that's nothing more than a viewing platform or a viewing interface. You can open it through the web browser and you can put in some different search criteria and find documents, but you cannot actually participate in anything through the public access viewer. So you have to register through the external access client and have an account, and then you can file a petition. So as it says here, once registered, affected persons will search for the docket number and click file petition for this application. So what does that look like? Over here, I'm inside the docket object. Here we are, 2104-00098. I know it's spacing app. Let's just pretend for a minute that I am an affected person within this potential spacing unit, and I've received notice of this application through the mail. And I log in, I create an account, log into the external access client. I come over here, file a petition for this application right over here on the right-hand side. So we click on this. Now you'll notice that it looks a lot like what we were just using, but it's different in a lot of ways because things have been completely grayed out over here. In other words, we've removed the opportunity for there to be a mistake here. Because if you've logged in and your goal is to submit a petition, there's no other options here. The document type, it's been grayed out because the only thing you can be is a petition. The document date is grayed out because it's going to say that it's going to, obviously the system is smart enough to know that it's April 29th. Again, over here, the filed by role, again, petitioner. So all you have to do is log in, and that's why we need you to log in, because we need your name and email address, because you become an interested party based on the logic of the system. So I'm going to choose a file. I'm going to just, it's going to be my generic test document, and I'm going to hit import. Let's see, it's going to probably give me an error message. It's thinking about it. Oh, no error message. Okay. Look what it did here. It automatically changed this box from is this being petitioned to yes. We scroll down. We look at the attached documents. There's the petition right there. We scroll down even further. And again, we have to sort of suspend disbelief here for a moment because I'm playing multiple roles. But look, it's got me as the applicant because I was logged in with my state email address. It also, here's my attorney email address that I put in that I just made up. And then it's also got me as the petitioner. I have no idea who Patrick Kelleher is, why that person's named as the hearing officer, but it's probably some sort of test field. But anyway, there it is, petitioner. So now we know that this system is, that we know that it's petitioned. I'm going to go back to my flow chart, and this now, you'll notice that it splits off underneath petition period. If we go to the left, no petitions filed. That's obviously the consent agenda route. That's what we discussed last week. But now it's going to go to the right on this Word document, and it's now going to go into the hearing officer petition review. And I'm not sure, Elias, if you can change this or not, but it might need Marg to change it. But why don't we try to have you change it, because we didn't test that. I'm going to stop sharing, and Elias, why don't you take back over inside the Unity client and then alter the date of the petition period so it's passed.
Okay. Can you let me share again?
No.
Well, I'll do it. I'll paint a picture for everybody then.
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me see. There we go. Make host. Okay, all yours.
Okay. So I preface this. Can everyone see the docket?
Yep.
Okay. I preface this by saying now we're kind of entering the wilderness because we have not had this happen in the e-filing system officially yet, for a couple of reasons. One, we haven't had people pushing the dockets into the petition period. And two, we haven't really had any protests that have lasted to the end of the timer of the petition period. But assuming we do, this should be set on the timer for the 26th. So even if people petition, the status isn't going to change until the petition period's over on the 26th. At that point, we would assume, and I say that because we're still going to see how the system plays out. Hopefully, it will move to, as John said, the hearing officer petition review stage, which it looks like it did in this situation. So at that point, anyone that accesses this is going to know that there's been a petition, at least one filed, and we're moving into the pre-hearing process. So the hearing officer is going to see this, going to review the petition, make sure it's timely, et cetera, et cetera. And the next step would be in the system, as you see up here, to route this to a pre-hearing conference, which we can go ahead and do. And that's when the hearing officer is going to contact the parties to either schedule a pre-hearing conference or, discuss any documents that need to be submitted pre-hand. It just depends. As you know, these are handled on a case-by-case basis, often depending on the parties and the situation. Sometimes parties like to work and try and settle before the pre-hearing conference, et cetera. But what this would say to the parties is that a pre-hearing conference has been scheduled, and that they'll be required to attend and move forward there, as you can see in the workflow. Let's assume that happened and there's been deadlines for the parties to generate CMO documents. As you see, that's a general term. When we look at the workflow, we're here, and either the hearing officer or the parties will upload the documents. Usually the parties will confer and submit a CMO, pre-hearing statements, etc., depending on the dates that they wish the hearing to proceed by. And I believe that if John, as petitioner, would open his screen at this point, he would be able to upload a document as well.
Yeah, that's correct, Elias.
Okay. And here, when it's at this stage, John, do you see, is there a routing button after that that might say CMO PHS complete? Or are we waiting?
So I'm looking at, I'm still logged into the external access client, and I have no further options. The status is generate CMO documents. That's the docket status, but I have no further options on that right-hand vertical pane.
Okay. So this step is pretty much just an interim step in that case. Normally after the pre-hearing conference, the hearing officer is going to route this to CMO and PHS upload. And that should enable the parties to upload whatever documents are necessary, review them. Oh, excuse me. This is where a draft will be uploaded first. As you can see, we are not experts in this part of the queue yet either, because we have not dealt with it time and time again like we have for the unprotested or unpetitioned dockets. So let me go ahead and upload a draft case management order. And this will be more of a template for the parties to use as they're filling it in with the dates. As you can see, it'll make sure we fill this in completely. Okay, and here we are now. The status has changed to CMO and PHS upload. And that basically says that the petitioner and the applicant are in charge of uploading whatever documents are necessary at this point. So we'll go to John's screen, because as you can see up here, there's two different check marks, and those do come into play at this stage.
That's great, Elias. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now after you make me the host. Okay, so as Elias just said, the status changed to CMO and pre-hearing statement upload. I know that I keep referring back to this document, but it's really your guiding light here, that as a party, how to navigate the system. So CMO and pre-hearing statement upload is the status we're in. The hearing officer has already entered the CMO. Now parties may upload pre-hearing statements or other requested documents. So we go back to the system. You can see the status has changed again here, CMO and pre-hearing statement upload. If I come over here, I've got my options again. So I'm going to upload a supporting document, and I'm going to say that I'm the applicant. Let's see what shows up here. Actually, I'm going to say all, and then let's see. Oh, here's pre-hearing statement. And over here, I'm going to say that I'm the applicant. And that's a little tip that we've sort of learned by fiddling around with the system, that if you over here, depending on which one of these categories you click on, it will alter the types of documents displayed. So in other words, if this is, internal hearings, it gives me a different set of documents that are available to me to upload, as opposed to if I were the applicant. It changes the documents that I'm allowed to upload. But let's say that you are the applicant, and you are in here and you don't see what you want, like I just ran into. I don't see pre-hearing statement here. We've learned that if you change the type of group to all, it displays everything. And then there's the pre-hearing statement right here. Now you can still help the system along by coming over here and saying, hey, by the way, I'm the applicant. So don't get discouraged if you don't see the exact document type. We're still working on some kinks here. Obviously, we've got to work some bugs out, but that's something we've learned as just working in the test environment. So I'm going to say that I'm the applicant, and I'm uploading my pre-hearing statement. It's going to tell me that there's an error, but it should refresh. Let me come down here, and there it is. DNR COG pre-hearing statement uploaded by the applicant on this date. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing, but this time I'm going to say I'm the petitioner, pre-hearing statement, come over here. I'm going to tell the system I'm the petitioner. I'm going to choose a little fake file here, just a PDF, import. Okay, thank you. Now, I know we've said this 100 times, but I've got to repeat it here because it's applicable again. Let me see. Pre-hearing statement filed by the petitioner. So the test environment does not function exactly like the production environment. That's the thing we've said 100 times. But if this were accurate and it worked the way it should, like it does in production, I would click on these buttons: petitioner work complete, applicant work complete. And the reason why that matters is because if we come back to the Unity client, which I'm kind of stepping on Elias's toes here just a little bit, but let me open this up. If I was the hearing officer and I would scroll down here, I would see these boxes would be checked that said petitioner complete, applicant complete. And then again, let me go back to the workflow. So that would be the flag to the hearing officer that it's now been taken care of, that their work basically is done. And so I'm going to give it back to Elias because we've now passed the CMO and pre-hearing statement upload piece. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to make Elias the host again. All right, all yours, Elias.
Thank you. 1 second as I share the screen. Okay, so here we are. And 1 moment as it's, okay. 1 second. So as John said, theoretically at this point, these would be checked. This is in the test environment, so we'll see if this works from my end. Normally this would come from the petitioner and the applicant. We scroll down and there we have it, a check there. So that signifies that the petitioner is done. and we'll signify that the applicant's done. And that will notify us that, you know, we're on the CMO route. We're hitting every step here. And hopefully, once those are two checked, the system will move forward on its own. If not, you know, we'll be reviewing these matters as the case management order progresses. And what should happen is that once complete, we would hope that it would move to the next step, which would be prepare recommended order in a petitioned matter. I don't see that here. So we can go ahead and move it forward manually. Okay, and here we are. So the draft recommended orders would be uploaded by the parties, you know, pursuant to the case management order. And that means we're approaching the hearing. I'm not sure that it will let me schedule a hearing unless documents are uploaded. Let's see. Well, you can just try and assume that those recommended orders have been uploaded. All right, let's go ahead and upload one on my end and see if that helps. If not, we can just switch over to the workflow chart since we're running short on time, and these steps very much mirror the non-petitioned steps, except they let you know that something's petitioned. All right. Oh, and see, it makes me upload a Word document as well. At this point, I will not make everyone bear through me uploading multiple documents again. We can just go to the workflow chart and see the next step from prepare recommend order is petition. And that lets you know this is different from the generate recommended order over here, which is the consent agenda route. Here, this means that there is a petition and the parties will have that uploaded. And we see two possible routes here. The first one is the scheduled hearing. That means the petition matter is going to go before the hearing officer. In certain circumstances, it could go directly to petitioned general hearing. And that's where it's scheduled to go before the commission and bypass a hearing officer hearing, or the hearing officer's recommended order in the petition matter is scheduled to go before the commission for approval. So those are the two options. If it goes before the hearing officer, we will get this step again, prepare recommended order. And that is where the hearing officer will upload the recommended order based on the hearing. And that again will go before the commission. As you see over on this side.
Hey, Elias, this
Yeah.
is, you want to bring that flow chart to the front so we can see that we're still seeing the actual form.
My apologies. I did not realize that you could not see the flow chart. Here we are. Is that better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, so here's where we are. Prepare recommended order. As I said, it'll either go the scheduled hearing before the hearing officer route or to the petition to general hearing before the commission. Either way, it should end up there. Now you see these merge with the consent agenda items And this is kind of only assuming that a petition was filed, or petition was withdrawn or dismissed, then it would come down this route. And after the final order, there's the exception deadline where a petitioned party that had their petition dismissed or any other interim documents are being challenged. The exception deadline could also go this route where the exceptions filed toward the petition's general hearing. At that point, it would look pretty much the same as it did for the consent agenda. The commission will consider the matter, issue their decision, etc., and upload it. And that would begin to move towards petitioned GIS updates. And we'd go forward once all that is complete. It will read complete. And that is the basic route. Everything will end up at that stage one way or another at some point. So I know that's a lot. I will go ahead and stop sharing. And if there are questions, we can go ahead and try and answer those.
Great. Thank you, Elias. Appreciate that. I want to give, before we move into the questions, we only have a few outstanding questions from that original request by me to our stakeholders to provide pre-addressed questions. So before we jump into that, I want to ask if anybody has any questions about what we've just gone over, the petition route, the mechanisms, etc. Okay, I'm not hearing any. So let's, Mimi, are you on the call with us again? I do not hear Mimi. She might be in a different meeting at this point. Okay, so let's look at what we've got outstanding from a questions perspective. Okay, here's one. Submittal of written testimony with application. Rule 505. Historically, written testimony has included references to the docket number, service of process, information, and non-consenting parties, among other things. This information, which is not an exhaustive list, is not available to the applicant upon the initial application filing date, either because the information has not been obtained or the application not yet complete. Does the applicant need to defer filing the testimony until the docket number is assigned? Is it sufficient to attest to notice being provided in accordance with Rule 504 and/or that supplemental testimony will be provided following the expiration of the election period? So this question is somewhat similar to one of the very first questions we addressed, where it asked if there was a plan for filing supplemental testimony, and basically the answer is pretty much the same. So let's break this question into the two parts. So it says, does the applicant need to defer filing the testimony until the docket number is assigned? No. The answer to that is no. We want testimony. We want the testimony submitted at the time the application is filed to the extent possible. We understand that there's there's information not yet available to the applicant, such as who is elected and who is not elected, but that can be filed through supplemental 505 testimony when the time has passed and the information is available. But in order to comply with Rule 505, we do need the information that is available at the time of filing to be submitted with the application. Okay, so is it sufficient to attest to notice being provided in accordance with Rule 504? To the extent that addresses the concern that notice has gone out to the interested parties or to the affected persons, yes. But we also understand that you don't yet know who has elected or who has decided to participate. So I hope that answers that question. I think it does. Let's see. Hold on a second. I got to mark these as answered. Okay, so next question. Information sheets, Rule 303E2. The COGCC information sheets that accompany the OGDP notices do not appear to have been finalized by staff, except for the existing FRAC info sheet. In addition to getting an update on when the information sheets will be finalized, can you confirm that referencing a link to those documents in the OGDP 302E pre-app notice letters and 303E notice letters to stakeholders is sufficient? Yes, well, obviously that the information sheets, I know these questions are a little older because I asked for these to be provided to me several weeks ago, if not more than a month ago at this point. And so obviously the information sheets are available. And I do want to let everybody on this call know that that is something we are working to change as far as the organization where those information sheets live on our website. We're hoping to put those all in one place so they make sense, and they're just the organization and categorization of them makes better sense for our stakeholders. So obviously the information sheets are out there and exist. As far as confirming that referencing a link to those documents in the pre-app notice letters is sufficient, I'm not sure about that one. Mimi, are you back on the call yet?
I am here. Sorry.
Okay, welcome back. I'm not sure I entirely understand exactly what this question is asking, because I would basically defer to the language of our rules. It says that those sheets must be provided in an OGDP application. So I guess that depends on what exactly it means to provide them. The pooling brochure is something we've said, I think our rules said that it needs to be provided or a link to it. I might be wrong about that, Mimi. I can't remember if that language still tracks with our revised rules, but I'm interested in your take on that. And I'm pulling up the 300 series as we speak.
Okay. Yeah. And while John is looking to confirm that, my recollection is that the expectation is the information sheets would be provided in the course of providing notice to those interested parties that the rules specify must receive notice of the OGDP. So after an OGDP has received a completeness determination, I believe an operator has 7 days to provide notice of that application to those parties identified by rule that are required to receive notice: local governments, building unit owners, etc. And with that OGDP application at that point, if there are information sheets that are required to be submitted, that the operator could at that time provide those information sheets. And John?
Yeah, Mimi, I'm just looking at the language of it now. 303E2 states substance of notice. The notice provided by the operator pursuant to this section will include, and then A is an introductory letter, which requires 5 things. B is the description of the proposed OGDP, including 5 things. C, D, E, and F and G are all about information sheets that must be included. So I would say that referencing a link is not sufficient. So unless Mimi disagrees with me, because
No, I do not.
Okay. All right. So that answers that question. Now I'm going to give Mimi a little bit of a landmine here. Rule 506/505, public health, welfare, safety, environment testimony is currently required for pooling applications. Is this intentional? If so, what type of testimony is relevant regarding pooling applications?
Thank you, John. So yes, the commission was specific in our 500 series to exclude engineering and geologic testimony from pooling applications. The commission did not include public health, safety, welfare, and environment testimony from that. So the question, does an applicant for a pooling need to include public health, safety, welfare, and environment testimony? The short answer is yes. What that testimony looks like, certainly, we leave it up to the bar to determine what that will look like on a case-by-case basis. But I think generally we recognize that if a location has been permitted by staff, the 2As are in place, the 2s are in place, spacing is in place, there should be the assumption that that location is protective of public health, safety, welfare, and the environment. So by the time the pooling application is submitted, an operator and council would be able to reference back to the fact that this is a fully permitted site or location, and that staff's approval of that location should be indicative of protection of public health, safety, welfare, and the environment.
Thank you, Mimi. And one last question. I know we're right out of time. Before we get to this last question, I want to remind everybody that we are still, I promise, we are still going to have an OGDP training related to e-filing and showing what that looks like. And I would encourage everybody on this call to submit written questions ahead of time. If you're experiencing some issues with OGDPs and you're still unsure about certain things, we're still working through some things in the background as far as our internal processes. So don't worry, we're still going to get to that. But here's one last question for this morning, and then we'll go ahead and end this meeting. This is also going to be from Ms. Larson. This is related to public health, safety, welfare, environment, testimony, and OGDPs and Rule 505. Does staff plan to issue guidance with respect to the testimony required on the topic of public health, safety, welfare, environment as it pertains to OGDP applications? And there's a follow-up. Is it sufficient for a witness to issue testimony generally referencing the 2A and 2B?
Yeah, you know, at this point, we have not determined that we're going to be issuing guidance for the testimony for the PHSWE, public health, safety, welfare, and the environment. Certainly, the commission and hearing officers will be looking to technical staff's determination on that 2A as a primary factor as to whether or not the OGDP is protective of public health, safety, welfare, and the environment. So a witness's testimony that references back to the 2A, that certainly is an important key element of demonstrating public health, safety, welfare, and the environment for an OGDP. And we would look favorably upon that testimony. Certainly, as our rules point out, each OGDP is going to be different. So if in the estimation of the commission or a hearing officer, additional testimony or facts are necessary in order to demonstrate public health, safety, welfare, and the environment, you know, that may occur. But again, that would be on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Fantastic as always. It looks like it's beautiful wherever you are.
You don't get to see the laundry hanging in the background.
All right, I'm gonna go. I know we're a little bit over time. I appreciate everyone's attendance. Remember, this is gonna be uploaded to our YouTube e-filing page. And as of now, it's undetermined if we're gonna have a fourth training next week or if we're gonna go 2 weeks out. But as I stated earlier, I would encourage everyone to email your questions to me so we can address them ahead of time, get you a good answer, and then share them with the group. And then it just becomes part of this record. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate your attendance and your attention. Stay safe and be well, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.